fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. Hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
What we gonna eat no money, what we at you, eat no at you. COVID money, miss we eat the your little rat you. Use the youth, them money, waste a must a man to statue. Say me like a cashew, but bigger than a figure you. Take the spit of money, girl, and say that is not you. One day the man above him, look him, I got a bet. Too much eating at the kitchen, some a fly well like a patu. When singers and DJs and social media's coming at you.
It burn me.
300%
It
raise.
burn me.
Garbage pile of the day.
It burn me.
Give the teacher them raise.
It burn me.
I see corruption face.
It burn me.
Mash down the people them house.
It burn me.
Every day appear arms out.
It burn me.
Appear money them a thief.
It burn me.
And them a sell out with each.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
Come me say dig up all the charities and all of the giver. Some a go like say them powerful, me no make a bigger. The 100 the promises, none of them not deliver. Cut up the youth, they rough and they down in a whatever. Member bold honey and they lie them tell. Corruption smell and they pocket them swell. When police don't a market like Satan out of hell, go mash up people start like thief when them sell.
It burn me.
Or they treat the market man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the cat man.
It burn me.
Or they treat the peanut man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the dirt man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the son man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat policeman.
It burn me.
Or them a treat soldier man.
It burn me.
How them a treat everyone.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again.
The House is suspended until the ringing of the bells. The gallery is to be...
It is said that during the first part of the chant, leading into the tearing of the speech, what Hannah was doing is revoking the rights of the settler parliament, returning them to the visitor they once were. Isn't it time that we revoke the right of the Jamaica Labour Party government and indeed the entire Westminster Parliament, which is not taking us in a positive direction? Good morning and welcome to your At a Glance program. Thank you for joining us this morning. It was the East and West Portland conference yesterday. And I've picked up on things. J. Ross on TikTok. Good morning and welcome to my community of party and all my family members, platform moderators, membership holders, via subscribers, commenters, and trolls. Good morning, Beat and Teach. Good morning. Good morning to RJ, Norman Ferguson, Keith Matthews, Ransford McLean, Sophia Hall, Beat and Teach, Evan Riley, Vincent Dinan, Sanjay Stewart. Did I say Keith Matthews already? Probably yes. Sunshine, Marcia Essay, Sandra Ellis. Who else is here? Karen Namard, Norman Ferguson, Denise Hall, Rosemary Samuels, Joan Bailey, Paula Shelley, Sharon Powell, Christine Gilbert, The Esoteric World, Marcia Thomas, Monica Wills, Colin. Good morning all, and welcome. Bevan Brown, good morning. Janet Beckford, Carl Wilson. Like and share the live, please. True Love, good morning. Good morning and welcome. Call Floyd Green, please. Can somebody call my MP? Is there anybody here from St. Elizabeth? Because when me call Floyd Green, number you the Floyd Green. Now go answer me. Pauline Compass, Pauline Jones. Floyd Green now go answer me, but just like what's your other call him? Dennis Meadows. Floyd Green is promoting scamming. That's gold. Annie Jones. Me cash hot. Nah. You must all know the song Family Morals. Good morning. J. Ross, good morning. You must know the song. Me cash hot. Da. Cousin Myrna, good morning. That's what Floyd Green is promoting. And if it wasn't good that Dennis Meadows was promoting scamming in whatever way they're promoting it, it cannot be that the minister who sit down in a hotel with him Tapanaris friend them, busting champagne and laughing after us when we were locked down and social distancing. This same minister come back with a cash app scamming promotion. Somebody sent it to me yesterday. One of my team sent it to me yesterday. I never understand that context of it because I don't listen to Boogie Yaga reggae, so I don't understand unless somebody explain it to me. So what I said was, this is how Floyd Green behaved, because this is how we know Floyd Green to behave, Patricia Matthews. How Floyd Green fooled the young people of St. Elizabeth is go on a dance and act like the hooligan that he is, and him up in bar, and him take mic, and him palaver, and him behave, I am one of you. But that's how it goes. That's how far, really, it goes for Floyd Green, Blue Waves, when it comes to representation. It's come and open a bar, open a bill at the bar, Jason Kane. Open a bill at the bar, hold the mic, behave like the hooligan that he is, and then young people think that's a cool MP. Mother heifer, enough of that. But then one of my cousins called me this morning and said, you know, see Floyd Green promotes scamming. And I said, no. And then my cousin start explain the song to me. And me go look for the official song on YouTube. And it is, me here say, the scammer them favorite song. That's what your MP Green is wheeling up and carry on. I'm just going to play that little snippet for you because I can't play much of it because of copyright. But just look at this little snippet and listen well. Listen well. Me cash hop hot and know all the rest of the song go. That's what Mayor Green is promoting scamming, because Mayor Green knows a lot of the young men across his constituency is involved in scamming. So if Mayor Green, Monica Wills, want them vote, Mayor Green can't go against them scamming. Mayor Green have to promote them scamming. Is this the type of representation that we really want? Is this where we're going? These are the reasons why we can be strong like Hannah, because we're not united. Because if you notice, when that call to action, nobody never questioned. The Maori community never questioned whether they should stand up or join in. It was an automatic thing because they are united. There is a community there. But we would tag over who right, who wrong. Oh, this is inside of Parliament. We cannot do it. She never have one thought that I was in Parliament. What she was concerned about her rights and the rights of her community, that the wicked, cruel British was rolling back after 100 and odd years of treaty. There's a difference to the feel of a rebellion when a rebellion is led by a woman. If this rebellion in Parliament was led by a man, Kathy, how are you? I guarantee you it would have not reverberated around the world in the way that it did. The thrill it sends down your spine when you're listening to it, if it was a man, I guarantee you it would probably be a different feel. But there's a feeling, there's a different feeling when a rebellion is led by a woman. And this is why in religion and in politics, they always stifle woman's progress. Because the true spirit and the true rebellion of God is within a woman. And that's why you see these men take over society, especially these petulant, belligerent, narcissistic, molesting white men. It is time, bros, morning, that we call for the revocation of the colonial parliament that have been set up around this world by Britain. Britain and America is collapsing, and we must look for a new direction. Yesterday morning, we look a bit into the state of the Jamaican economy. This morning, certainly, we're also going to look into the state of the American economy. Because what we don't want no fido is to wake up and shock to things around you. We want to make sure that you're all in the know. You understand? Because there's a lot of things that are happening. And when you listen to the mainstream media and government, you totally get a wrong impression of what things really are. Sometimes you have to go beyond them and look for people who are analysts with experience. So we're going to take a look at the American economy this morning. A very one of America's top economic economists, rather, Richard Wolff. And I'm hold on. Hold on. I'm going to bring it to you, but we're also going to look into some nonsense of east and west. Bear with me, I just need to set up this for you. Oh, where did I put it? East and west, call Pattymouth, Juliet, Cockburn, Finn. Because Juliet Cockburn Finn went to the Brouhaha yesterday. Miss Finn, though, couldn't. Pardon me for looking down. I'm looking at something. What Miss Finn couldn't have done is explain to the people the progress of Miss Finn's work. What Miss Finn rather did, she went off on a tangent, and Isaac Buchanan and Mark Golden, I think she said about Isaac Buchanan, sparked me to respond to her this morning, Miss Finn. Dear old Miss Finn. Something sparked my response. That dear old Miss Finn says. Oh dear. Miss Finn said to the people of Portland, you can't vote for a man who tell the first DPP figure soccer man private part. No, Miss Finn, that's not actually correct. He didn't tell Paula to go on Soccerman's private part, Miss Finn. What he did was quoted a song to that effect by the person he was defending at the time in court, the entertainer. That same entertainer who sings that song, Miss Finn. So those weren't Isaac word, it was a quotation. So that's a misinformation, because you should have said he quoted the entertainer. But you went further, didn't you? You said to the people, we no can't vote for somebody, we want to go to him and tell you where he go suck out. Hey, Miss Finn! Miss Finn, I mean, are you aware, Miss Finn, that when we want to use style it's your mouth, George Eagle Eye, that we head to Miss Finn? Party as it gets. Journalists, your political colleagues, they've all felt the wrath, Juliet Cockburn Finn, of that potty mouth. And you turn on to Mark Golden and you talk about the state of his constituency and the state of the road. What have Mark Golden done for his constituency? And so on and such a forth. This is yours, you know, Miss Finn. Have you forgotten, Miss Finn? Deron, rather. Have Miss Finn forgotten Raymond G? Miss Finn went on a full rant and Isaac and Mark Golden. But what Miss Finn did not do is speak about her success within her constituency. Because I guess, Miss Finn, there wasn't much to speak about, was there? So therefore, you have to just turn onto something else. But the Miss Finn that says, don't vote for the man where if you go to him I go tell you where and who figure suck out. Let's remind Miss Finn of the pottiness of that toilet we often visit, her mouth.
Hello, good afternoon, Mrs. Cuthbert. My name is Andre Williams, madam. I'm a reporter with the Dina Company, and I am just seeking your guidance as it relates to whether or not you have been made aware that the Walkers Hill community has had some disruption in their water supply. Red Hills?
No, I haven't.
Not been aware.
Have you called NWC?
Well, I have reached.
You call NWC to find out. I don't understand when you said. I don't understand when you said there's a water disruption. For how long? For today?
All right, they.
I don't understand. Like, is there a time limit? Since they've had a water disruption, is that something that happened today? I don't know. NWC normally sends out an advisory, and I'm not aware unless an advisory was sent out or somebody calls me from the community.
All right. What I know, Mrs. Copperfield, is that they used to get waters on a Wednesday and Sundays, but they have said that over the past month that has not been so.
Don't tell them to call NWC to find out. I know who is this? Who are you?
No,
Are you a resident of Walker's Hill?
No, madam. I am a reporter with the Dina Company.
Yeah, so do your due diligence and call NWC and find that out. I don't know why you're calling me.
Well, you are their representative.
Why are you calling me? Why are you calling me?
Mrs. Copperfield,
do your due diligence. Go and do your reporting and call NWC and find out. I am not NWC.
That's why I started out, Mrs. Copperfield, by asking you if you are aware.
I want to come here and set the record straight. A journalist from the Gleaner wrote a very misleading story this morning that I made a comment regarding the Walkers Hill community and that they should call NWC themselves.
Don't tell them to call NWC to find out. I know who is this? Who are you?
I want to state categorically here that it is not true, that I never said such a thing.
Don't tell them to call NWC to find out. I know who is this? Who are you?
The journalist told me that he was doing a story and that he visited the community and that they do not have water. I said to the journalist, I'm not aware of that.
They used to get waters on a Wednesday and Sundays, but they have said that over the past month that has not been so.
No one has contacted me, and I asked him, did he contact NWC? And he said no. And I said to him, then I think if you're doing a story, the best thing for you to do is to contact the agency, NWC, because I'm not the agency.
I don't know why you're calling me.
Well, you are their representative.
Why are you calling me?
To find out what could be the problem. But as far as I am concerned, nobody from Walker's Hill has ever reached out to me to let me know that they do not have water.
Don't tell them to call NWC to find out. I know who is this? Who are you?
No,
Are you a resident of Walker's Hill?
No, madam. I am a reporter with the Gleaner Company.
And if it is that any community have water issues, once a resident reaches out, I am always there to answer their call to find out from NWC what the situation is.
I am not NWC.
That's why I started out, Mrs. Copperfield, by asking you if you are aware.
This journalist, the call ended abruptly by me telling him that he must do his due diligence.
I am not NWC.
That's why I started out, Mrs. Copperfield, by asking you if you are aware.
Anybody in the Jamaica Labour Party, because I'm fucking sick and tired of you, okay? I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to fucking hear from you. I asked Chevron to choose a project. He's yet to choose a fucking project, okay? I'm the one who told him that I'm going to give him paint and cement for somebody's house, to fix up somebody's house. Up to now, he hasn't come to me to tell me anything about King Weston and what he wants to do. He called me yesterday to tell me he wants ply and nail and some other stuff for this lady's house. He has not chosen a project. So don't come to me unless you know your fucking facts. Why don't you become the fucking MP? Since you know everything and you're the head cook and bottle washer for every fucking thing. Why don't you become the fucking MP then? Huh? Since you're the one delegating and telling me what I must do and how I must run things. You do it. Come and take my job then. Let me fucking tell you something. You go and you play this back to anybody in the Jamaica Labour Party, because I'm fucking sick and tired of you, okay?
Effing, flipping, what's it a rathering, and all sorts. It was that Juliet Cockburn Finn who stood on the stage last night telling the audience, if you vote for Isaac Buchanan, that's what you will get. Did you remember that, Miss Cockburn Finn? And I wonder if Miss Cockburn Finn remember that this was out here and we are going to compare and contrast, Miss Cockburn Finn. Isaac Buchanan quoted a song. This was Miss Cockburn Finn speaking to one, in the first instance, a journalist, and two, a party member. It is what your constituency get coupled with the bad roads, Miss Finn. But let's look at a few little comparisons of that. And Vaz, we know I say you watch the crowd and you read people lip and then thing there, but you barely hear a lot of thing where going. So we're gonna pardon you. We're gonna pardon you tonight, and Vaz. We're gonna pardon you because we know say you not hear a lot of thing. And Vaz with the whole heap of paper. All the way I go say and Vaz. It couldn't hold power one piece of paper, and Vaz just a search and a chop and change. It could have all been done. Let me show you something, and Vaz. Hey, let me show you something. I have to show and Vaz something. All right. In order not to carry all those tangled piece of paper that you're fuffling through on the stage, and Vaz, we have what is called cue card. We have many of them. So what you do, Anne, you bullet point on your cue card whatever you're going to say, and you have them set up, Anne, and as soon as you finish with one, you put it to the back and you're good to go again. But the fumbling and the picking on the fluffing with the paper, searching through for what you need to say, and Vaz, if you're not going to lie, you don't need to write. Because if truth is within you, and if there is service, you can't just talk what you do. You don't have to write what you do on paper. Those who you see come with things written on paper, they come with a plan. Lie. It's not, I don't broadcast off paper. Whatever little props you see I have on screen on my slide, that's what guide me with the information I already read or have in my head. Why, every time come, have to fluff through paper and all of them something there? Why is it? All right, there's a thing called cue card. It is much more easier to handle than to handle the whole heap of exercise book leaf and Vaz, where you tear out of the hardcover book, and then you come and a fluff and a fight through them to find out which one comes first, which comes second. Now, my dear, if you were using cue card, as soon as you finish with one, you move it to the back and you continue. And when you finish with the next one, Miss Vance, you continue, move it to the back. But Jesus Christ, the struggle last night with Ann Vance. Let's look at a few comparisons, though. It was East last week compared to East and West combined together this week. So 2 plus 1, or 2 versus 1. 2 plus 1, 2 versus 1. The two together could barely pack an auditorium. Last week, Sunday, it was in Port Antonio Square. Port Antonio Square, you know. Compare to the hall, the auditorium, one ina and a claim to say, when I set up one tent out a door. What happened to no camera? Why no camera can turn off on a stage? That is my biggest problem with the JLP conferences across the constituencies. Why on a camera can't turn in the crowd? Last night did look as bad as the one you all had last week in, was it Northwest? You see, when they never come with a big green, hope a green leaf, was they hide the green mango them on the tree. So there was less of the greenness. But my God, the stage was overcrowded. When you want to see Anne and Mayor Mats a wine and dance and carry on. Darrell's face was so sour. It looked like a lamed ass last night, like literally. Is it Sunshine's birthday? Happy birthday, Sunshine. It was literally like a sore ass, Darrell Vaz face last night. Because no matter what they come with or plan to say or whatever, they weren't enthusiastic. Neither were the people. The crowd, you mean 2 cones, 2 MP, 1 MP caretaker, full an entire square. And you mean to say no JLP couldn't come from nowhere, come support you know, to make sure say on even sell off, given to say at Tuano, I fix up it together. Then to post I did one. If Tuano did so badly yesterday. But what you also notice compared to last Sunday, compared to yesterday, you come with the same haga behavior, you come with the same not telling the young people what you're going to do for them. Me not hear Anvaz at telling you what I do for you, him telling you what Andrew do for the country. It was a rant about Mark Golden and Isaac Buchanan. What about telling the people what you have done and what you will be doing? How is it about the PMP lies and failure and squandering of the economy? How have we get back to that? Want to get back into 2016 campaign? I mean, it should be like laying out your legacy, make we fed up and tired of it. You all have enough time. So no shouldn't be a layout on the legacy, but when you look at the roads across the country, and Andrew Holness, we're going to look at the American economy first, and then we're going to come to you, Prime Minister, because Prime Minister Wahala, Prime Minister Walker make it up and tell lie. The Prime Minister was yet confronted by a group of young youths again, asking for jobs. But because this Prime Minister, all they can do is put jugs and guns into young men's hands, they can barely answer questions when they get asked questions about jobs. Isn't it, Prime Minister? I want to bring to your attention the state of the U.S. economy. Regardless of what we are being told by the media or by political operatives, it is important that we know what is going on around us, because the American economy is central to a lot of other global economy, even though this is changing drastically. And in this conversation with Professor Richard Wolff, you will have an understanding. This is a very recent talk that was done last week. It is important that we listen because we need to understand where things are going before we get there and get into a surprise. These people, as I said to you yesterday, I cannot give you a talk about the economy. So the people with the experience, such as Ralston Hyman for Jamaica or Richard Wolf and others within the American field, such as Noam Chomsky and quite a few others of these professors, that really gives you a grip and the state of where the world is. So let's listen in for a bit, and then we'll come back to deal with Andrew Holness. Hey, this morning, Andrew.
Yeah. I want to get into the talk I have for you today, but I want to begin by reminding you of a famous saying. It goes like this: please don't shoot the messenger just because you don't like the message. I am not responsible for the conditions that we face as a nation today, but I am not going to sugarcoat what the situation is. My guess is you already know it in your hearts and in the backs of your minds, if not in the front. And if you had any doubt, the last week's election results probably...
Let me tell you why this is important. When the American economy goes south, as it is going at the moment, our economy will go further south than the state that Ralston Hyman explained to us that it is in. So it's important for us to understand where we are going as a people.
Remove them. So I thought it might be useful if we took stock of where we are here on the 10th of November, 2024. And by taking stock, I mean economics above all else. I do that because I think that's a core part of our situation about which Americans are extraordinarily poorly informed. I also do it because it's what I do for a living and it's what I study. And I feel an obligation, morally, ethically, to share with you what is going on, to make sure that however difficult it may be to face it, we will, because that's our best chance to work out of it and to get beyond it, which surely we need to do. Okay, let me get into it then, and I'll try to make it as brief as such a task could possibly be. I do believe we are at a major transition point in the history of the United States and probably of the whole world. I know that sounds grandiose, and I don't normally talk in grandiose terms, but the situation calls for it. And as I say, I'm not going to shrink away from why I think this. So let me begin by telling you why I think it's such an important moment in our history. For most of the last 50 years, roughly since 1970, the dominant economic reality of the global economy and of the United States as the major player and shaper of that global economy in the last 50 years That period can be characterized by many names, but the one that economists use is the phrase neoliberal globalization. And here's what it means: that in an era that we remember with names like Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, we turned away from the legacy of the New Deal. We turned away, as did many other countries, from the notion that a catastrophe like the Great Depression of the 1930s required that government play a major role in keeping capitalism tolerable for the mass of people. Remember what we did in the 1930s. We established Social Security that had never existed before in the United States. We established a minimum wage that had never existed before in the United States. We established unemployment insurance that had never existed before in the United States. And the government hired and paid 15 million people who were unemployed, and nothing like that had ever happened in the United States either. The government was called in to do all these things, in the words of one clever thinker, to give capitalism a human face. And it was paid for because it was very expensive, as you can imagine. To give every elderly American a Social Security check every month for the rest of their lives. To give unemployed people a check every week for a year or two. To hire 15 million people. And the money that paid for all of that were heavy taxes placed on corporations and the rich.
Do you want to start a podcast, but you're not sure how to do it? Well, Riverside has you covered. Here's how it works. First,
it's an important reminder for those of you who do not think that here in the United States we can ever tax corporations and the rich. It's an important reminder, of course we can, because we already did. As the remembrance, and footnote, the politician who had the courage to tax corporations and the rich, Franklin Roosevelt, was reelected president 3 consecutive times. He has been and is to this moment the most successful popular president in the history of the United States, starting with George Washington. So not only can you tax corporations and the rich, but when we had a president who was forced from below to do it, he became the most popular politician we've ever had. In the period starting in 1970, as the memory of the New Deal, as it was called, faded, Reagan and Thatcher undertook to roll the New Deal back. It had already begun before that, but it really gathered steam. And the mantra was the reverse of the New Deal. Instead of calling the government in to give capitalism a human face, people stumbled over one another, led by the Republicans, but tragically followed by the Democrats, to roll the government back, to get the government out of the economy, to go back to a capitalism, which, if I may be allowed to continue the metaphor, lacks a human face, as the songs we just heard today document. And over the last 50 years, the government not only didn't regulate the way it once did, didn't intervene the way it once did, but it...
Hit the like button, please. This may not be a popular program, but certainly down the line within the next few years, can say that's why producer Wayne was giving us these information ahead, because who already don't know that the British and the American economy has collapsed since 2008, and them are inflated quantitative easing the printing of them money to boost up them economy, them trade war with China. These are important information. Will prepare us for what's to come. Hit the like button as well as support the program. Me no wake up out of my bed for come can news so. Because I got a wire side. Understand?
Blessed the decision of corporate America to go where the profits were the greatest, which is what capitalism normally does. And where were profits the greatest? Answer: China. Starting in the 1970s, we had a mammoth exodus, and not like the one in the Bible. No, this was an exodus of American corporate leaders. They had graduated from business school where they had been taught, parentheses, I have taught in business schools myself, I know the curriculum. They were taught, if you want to succeed in business, go to where the wages are low and the market is expanding. The place where the wages were low and the market was expanding the most was in the land called the People's Republic of China. And American corporations, British and French and German and Italian and Japanese, they all went to China, where they were welcomed, where they were celebrated. And over the last 40 to 50 years, the Chinese economy grew. About half the economy there is capitalist. Private companies working pretty much the way they do here. The other half of the Chinese economy is government-owned and operated enterprises working the way they once did in places like the Soviet Union. China is a hybrid between the US and the Soviet Union. Different from both because it's a mixed situation. And it turns out that under the leadership of the Chinese Mao Zedong and the ones that have come since him, it turns out this hybrid organization can grow faster than any other economic system the world has ever seen. For the last 30 years, China has grown its economy, its GDP, its gross domestic product, between 6 and 9% per year. During that time, the United States GDP grew between 2 and 3% a year. It doesn't take rocket science to understand that if you can manage that difference, if China can grow 2 to 3 times faster than the United States for 30 years, it can do what it has now done. Namely, it's caught up. Today, the United States has a competitor economically. We haven't had one for a century. World War II eliminated the potential competitors economically of the United States. Britain, France, Italy, Germany, and Japan, all destroyed in and by that war. Russia too. Russia never was an economic competitor. It isn't now either. The GDP of the United States right now is about $25 trillion. The GDP of Russia about now is 3, maybe 4 trillion. No contest. It never was. It's part of why the entire Cold War will have to be revisited so Americans can finally learn what the truth about all of this is. Well, here we are. And what has happened has been that the United States now faces, for the first time in a century, an economic competitor. Big, powerful, highly developed, and able to outcompete the United States across the board, from the lowest to the highest technology which either side is capable of. And the United States has not yet come to terms with this situation. The American people are engaged in what my psychotherapist wife explains to me is called denial.
And this is one of the biggest dangers that lies ahead for us as human beings and global population, is because the state of world economy, we're not being told the actual truth, and we're living a lie, and things is just going to fall, flatten, or get worse in front of us, where we see high cost of living, riot, ration of this, ration of that. It is important for us to understand where the United States really is economically, regardless of whatever lie politicians and the media want to tell us. Listen to what the economists are saying, those who follow the figures. This man has been following the figures for 30 odd years, if not more.
The pretense, mostly to yourself, that the reality around you isn't there. It's best understood when glimpsing a toddler confronted by a scary barking dog, and the toddler puts his or her hands in front of her eyes, comforted by the thought that if you can't see the dog, it isn't there. But we all know you grow up, and at a certain point, not many years later, you come to understand you can put your hand there, but it doesn't make the dog disappear. China's going nowhere. China is growing. By the way, lest you think any of this is in the past, let me give you right now what the rate of growth of economic output is for 2024, this year. These I'm about to give you are the estimates of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, which monitors all of this. Economic growth for the United States, 2024, will be 2.8%, right on target with what it's been on and off for a long time. The economic growth of People's Republic of China this year will be 4.8%, nearly double. And the economic growth of India will be 7%. The next time you hear an American politician or you read in an American newspaper how the American economy is doing better than anyone in the world, please remember the word denial. That kind of statement, which I encounter almost every day, is the exact equivalent of a toddler putting fingers in front of her eyes or nose in hoping that the scary dog will go away. Not only have the Chinese outgrown us, but they have built an alliance with other countries that are recognizing that what was true for the last 75 years, a global economy dominated by the United States as the country that came out of World War II with no bombs that fell on it other than Pearl Harbor, and less damage than any other developed country. The Chinese have built an alliance called the BRICS, B-R-I-C-S. You don't hear as much about it as you ought to. It started a few years ago: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, 5 countries. A year and a half ago, 6 more joined. And 3 weeks ago, 13 more joined. The BRICS together is more than half the population of this planet. The United States is 4.5%, not 50% of this planet. The total output of goods and services in the BRICS is significantly larger already than the total output of the United States and its major allies, known as the G7. The United States, Canada, Japan, Britain, France, Germany, and Italy. So now every country in the world, every company in the world is reassessing and redesigning its strategy for the future.
I have been regularly asking the Jamaican government this question. Could they tell us if they'll have a BRICS alignment? Because one cannot follow the US into martyrdom. All the US will want to do at this moment is war to mobilize the military industrial complex, and all the others try to match up the Chinese, or especially the Chinese economy, more than the Indian economy. This is why you see America baiting these wars, because if you keep them suppressed and the world have to depend on the American economy, then the Americans can strive. The question is, in this new global realignment of power, where the world is turning into a more multipolar world, where it's not just US, the one and only, where is Jamaica alignment going forward? Will the country be asking that question? Will the people be asking that question? Will we be asking the People's National Party, what is Jamaica direction in this new world power alignment and the alignment with BRICS? Do we go down with the West, or do we look to other economic providers to do so? Trump now go fight a physical war. Trump is going to go on the economic war with China, but Richard Wolff is going to explain to you how that will work and who will pick up the bill for that economic warfare. So Listen on.
And what do I mean? They're redesigning because the dominant player in the world of the last 70 years, the United States, isn't the dominant player anymore. There is a bigger player, richer player in the BRICS, which means if you're going to build a railroad in your country, you don't just go to Washington or London or Paris. You may go to them, but you're going to ask them what offer they can make, and then you're going to compare it to what you can get from Beijing, New Delhi, and Sao Paulo. And in case after case, the choice is made to go with the BRICS, not the West. So what do I mean? I mean to tell you all that if you asked me to tell you what is the biggest reality we now have to face, it's the end of the American empire. What we inherited from the British, because they had the last empire before this one, is now over, and there is zero chance it's coming back. It ought to have been a central issue in the presidential election we just had. Instead, the two candidates and their parties worked overtime to practice denial. No such a thing. The war in Ukraine, just to take one of countless examples, will show you how costly this denial is. When the war begins in February of 2022, President Biden told us, along with all of his officials, Russia would be brought to its knees. The Russian currency, the ruble, would collapse. The entire West would side with Ukraine against the Russian invasion and would defeat the Russians. None of that happened. Every part of that prediction proved false. Why? Because the way Russia was to be brought to its knees was by denying the market for Russian oil and gas, whose export the Russians depend on. It's a major industry for them. And they exported all of that energy to Western Europe. When the Western Europeans, under pressure from the United States, closed their markets to Russia, the expectation was that Russia would collapse. Instead, Russia went to its allies in the BRICS, above all China and India, and arranged to sell to them the oil and gas they no longer sold to the Europeans.
Watch. This is how my dad got a flat belly at 60s.
This is day 17 of doing nothing but this chair.
As a result, Russia is growing faster this year than the United States, and it has grown at a faster rate than the United States throughout the war. You couldn't be more mistaken than this. That's what it means if you deny a reality.
Now, are you understanding how the US government is just wasting taxpayers' money, killing people for fun without any resolve, getting into wars that they know they cannot win at all? The US has never won a war. The US is known to dropping bombs from the sky. The US is not known to win wars. They're never going to win any. They've never won any.
All right. Let me tell you the next step of this because it drives home the point. What we know about the history of every other empire that also grew, was powerful, and then died was that the ride up as you're growing is a lot more fun and pleasant than the ride down when you're dying. The ride up was the 20th century, which many of you, like me, lived through. We now have to figure out how we descend when our empire is dying. What the United States is doing is typical. Denial has always been there. You can travel to Britain today and encounter no small number of people who still imagine that the British Empire is still there. Witness the inauguration ceremonies for King Charles, who's the king of nobody. What is this? Here's how it works in the United States. People who are rich and powerful are offloading the costs of a declining empire off of themselves. They don't want to suffer, which I understand. But if the economy is going down, which it is, and the people at the top are keeping theirs, which they are, then the rest of us, the middle class, the lower classes, the poor, we're going to be taking it on the chin more and more. And let me give you just a few of the examples. The inflation we just went through. That's a way of lowering the standard of living of large numbers of people, which they felt acutely as they went and paid $6.
Isn't the same thing that happened to us during the inflation as well? Our standard of living dropped hugely. You can't afford what you used to afford anymore. You can't buy what you used to buy anymore. You even struggle to feed yourself week by week.
$6 for a dozen eggs or everything else. They know they're suffering. My guess, no chance for Mr. Trump without that inflation. It gave him the victory, and it cost Kamala Harris the loss. But it's not the only thing. Let me give you other examples which an economist stares at with astonishment. The minimum wage at the federal level in the United States right now is $7.25 per hour, a sum of money on which nobody can live. When was the last time it was raised? 2009. That's 15 years ago. In every one of those 15 years, inflation raised the prices here in the United States of food, clothing, shelter, and everything else. Some years it went up a lot. Some years it went up only a little. But it went up. And what did we do to the people to whom we paid the lowest salary, $7.25? We didn't raise it. Republicans didn't raise it. Democrats didn't raise it. You know what that is? That's cruel and unusual punishment given to people whose crime is that they're poorly paid in the first place. What kind of a country does that? A declining empire whose rich and powerful are busy offloading the costs of that decline onto everybody else. Here's another sign. our real wages have been stagnant for 30 to 40 years. In other words, if you measure, as we do in economics, the average wage in dollars paid to American workers, and you adjust that to the prices they have to pay when they spend their wages, it's been going up somewhere around 0.5% a year.
Isn't this the same comparison with that glorious we have raised the minimum wage twice in a year, even though it's twice in 6 months, they say it's twice in a year. But isn't it though that you have to compare it to the price of chicken, the price of bread, and the price of flour, the price of bus fare, the price of gas? They don't want to talk about that. They only want to tell you we've raised the minimum wage, but they're not telling you the cost of bread, the cost of flour, the cost of petrol. They're not having that conversation. Just like our current Jamaica Labour Party, they're telling us about the raising the minimum wage, but they're not having the conversation about the high cost of living. Same thing.
That's called stagnation. That means your wage isn't going anywhere. By the way, in contrast, the average real wages in the People's Republic of China have quadrupled over the same 30 years. If you want to understand why the government in China is secure, why it is powerful, why economic growth there is celebrated, I just gave you the statistic. Their average wage quadrupled. The average wage in the United States went nowhere. That's not even close, friends. And if you didn't know that, since everything I'm telling you is easily verifiable in 1,000 government statistics, then you understand what I mean by denial. We are therefore experiencing in this country an extraordinary deepening of inequality. At the end of World War II, the United States was less unequal than European countries. Today, we are more unequal than every European country. How did that happen? Well, on the one hand, when corporations went to China and took advantage of low wages and a growing market, it made a fortune for those corporations and therefore for the top 10% of Americans who own shares. Just a footnote. The top 10% richest Americans own 80% of the stocks and bonds. They did well. The rest of us, we are experiencing a declining empire, which those at the top don't want you to think about. They're managing it quite well. We cannot. That inequality, together with the inflation, gives you Mr. Trump's victory and the bitterness and divisiveness that is suffusing this economy. And still, nobody willing to face these realities or to speak about them.
Hi there. Did you know you can perfectly legally, through a government scheme, earn £1 million a year?
Let me conclude by telling you that this is important to understand not only as our past and not even only as our present, as in the election we just had, but also in our future. This denial, this refusal to face the realities of the economy we have and that is shaping our lives and even more those of our children, promises us frightening near future. I'm only going to give you two examples because I don't want to overstay my welcome with you, but I do want to leave you with useful information to navigate the immediate future. Mr. Trump won the election because he positioned himself with dramatic gestures, the sort favored by Madison Avenue advertisers. And the two gestures were, I am the great protector. Mr. Trump understood far better than the Democrats that people feel attacked, undermined, frightened, scared, worried for themselves and their children, as well they should be. They glimpse fearfully where things are going. They want to be protected from it all. So he put himself forward as the great protector. And his two images were walls, the image of a protector. He's going to put a steel wall at the southern border to protect us against the invasion of the immigrants. And then he's going to put another wall, a tariff wall, to protect us against the evil Chinese. Very powerful images, very successful. But in terms of economics, total incoherent nonsense. Let me explain, and then I will conclude. We have 10 to 12 million undocumented immigrants. That's according to the Department of Homeland Security. We are a population of 330 million Americans. Do the math. 10 to 12 of the poorest people in the country, those immigrants, are not the explanation for the economic difficulties of this rich country of 330 million people. The very idea of that is ridiculous. An undergraduate who wrote such a thing would be called in by their teacher and told, try to think through what you're saying before you say it. The real economic problems, and they are real, of the United States have to do with what I just spent 20 minutes going over with you. They don't depend on more or less immigrants. On the other hand, if Mr. Trump now deports 5 or 10 of these 10 to 12 million immigrants, which he has threatened to do, there will be consequences. Why? Because undocumented immigrants are the most abused of our working class. An undocumented immigrant who asks for his pay on Friday afternoon and is told by his employer, sorry, I don't have the money, has no recourse. He can't go to the police. He's an undocumented immigrant. He doesn't want to get anywhere near any office of the government. He will not complain. He can't. He's like a slave. And that's how they're treated. The construction industry in this country is a major employer. If it doesn't have undocumented employees, it'll have to pay Americans. And you know what? It'll have to pay them a hell of a lot more than they're paying the terrified, undocumented immigrant. And that will mean the cost of construction will zoom up. And you know what that does? It worsens our inflation. Mr. Trump either can't do it for that reason, or he...
Less than half of you will here hit the like button. When you can support the program, you know, may I prepare enough for the future. Me not prepare enough to mix up. I'm not preparing for the bagger on TikTok and all about. Me preparing for the future. So the most you can do is hit the like button. Okay, if you not think what he's not saying is real, just look at the circumstances we face around us. So hit the like button. Or otherwise, you can drop a £2 super chat if you don't want to hit the like button. But you can't just sit down and tear in my face, so.
He will produce an inflation that will overnight turn him from savior to demon in the eyes of his own followers. Then there's the second wall, the tariff wall. Let me remind everyone what a tariff is. It's just a tax. It's the name given to a particular kind of tax, namely the tax charged to an American importer when that person brings something produced overseas into the United States to be sold. It means Mr. Trump, a Republican who is against taxes, is proposing an enormous tax increase. And while he keeps saying he's hitting the Chinese with a tariff, it's not the Chinese who pay for tariffs. It's Americans. The American importer will pay much more. And that person will then charge more to the consumer, you and me. And you know what that means? An inflation, which...
And either the importer buy it and pass the price on to you, or you go into rationing if the importer decides that I cannot compete with these heavy taxes that President Trump has levied. And this is the problem with capitalism and America. What you have to learn to do, America, is work together with Russia and China, who is not going anywhere. Trying to continue to suppress those countries just isn't gonna work. That's why China stayed aside and flew past you. That's why for 70 or more years, you could not have done anything to Russia, even Cuba in your backyard, even though people keep saying Cuba should bow to the US. For whatever reason, I don't know why, when Cuba never bowed to an empire, why Cuba should bow to a declining, failed economy, United States, where we soon start have food rationing and riot over food in the West. If America don't realize what it's trying to do to control and police the world has put it in the position that he finds itself in now. Because America spent more of taxpayers' money fighting war, destabilizing and destroying other economy in order to be the world police and stay on top of the world. America, your days are numbered.
He can't have. Yet he proposes these, counting on the American people to be into denial, not to interrogate any of this, to sit there and have debates as if there's something to debate. The debate is a distraction. It's a way of not dealing with your problem because you're too frightened of letting it be debated, lest it go where it might bite you. And we are run by a community of businessmen and women in charge of our corporations, including our mass media, who are not going to do it. Mr. Trump's economic proposals, whatever else you think of them, are economically incoherent. It's great advertising. I'm protecting you with my walls. It's wonderful. But when it comes now to governing, it's impossible, and it's a bad joke. And the whole world is watching. And while it's watching this bad joke unfold,
if you have an hour this week, you can learn 100 songs on the piano by learning just 4 chords. These.
Gap between the United States and the G7 on one hand, and the People's Republic of China and the BRICS on the other deepens. The United States' effort to stop, block, undercut China have failed. Been doing it now for 15 years. Started big time under Obama. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so the question is, what? Do you keep doing it? Let me conclude by reminding all of us of the early history of the United States, in which your city, Boston, was such an important player. When the United States' people wanted to become independent of George III, the dominant king of the great British Empire, it ended up in a war. The War of 1774, 5, and 6, our Independence War. And to the surprise of everybody, the British lost. In 1812, they tried again, and they lost again. After that, the British decided, okay, we'll have to work out an arrangement. And the
important here, listen carefully, because this was how the American hegemon started and structured.
United States arrangement was, you're independent, you can take Latin America. That was the Monroe Doctrine that happened a few years after that. And Britain took the rest. Asia, Africa was theirs. They avoided a war after that for a century. What will the United States do? Continue its denial of what's going on? Threaten, as they have, China with war, despite the fact that China has nuclear weapons and the Russians do too, and they are now allied in good part because of the United States? Or are we going to sit down and work something out? Are we going to tell the American people, honestly, our empire is declining? The next one looks to be Chinese. Or if it isn't Chinese, it's going to be a multinational replacement for the kind of dominance that the Persians or the Dutch or the British or the Americans operated. The world is changing very fundamentally. We are living, as I said a half hour ago, at a time of enormously profound change. And our job as Americans is to stop behaving childishly in this game of thinking that the problems I've barely sketched don't have to be worried about, because we can continue to act as if we were in charge in the way we were in the 1960s and 70s. We aren't. Nothing like that. We are the war in Ukraine is lost. For those of you who don't keep track, is over, except for signing the documents. Russia won, Ukraine and the West lost. The war in Gaza isolates the United States. Indeed, what historians will say when they look back on this time will be that the United States undertook to isolate and neutralize the dangers after World War II. First in the Soviet Union, then in China, then in the global socialist world, nowadays in what are euphemistically called authoritarian societies. But the end result of the plan to isolate the rest of the world going through these efforts was to isolate the United States itself. We and Israel are standing all alone in that part of the world. And the Europeans, whose world is collapsed, they're economically a basket case. And you know why? What the major reason is that Europe is gone as a player? Because they relied on two things: exporting to China, which the Chinese don't need, and cheap energy from Russia, which they have turned away from. So the energy costs make European production uncompetitive. They have to pay too much for energy, and they can't sell in China the way they once did. They're done. Germany, which used to be the engine of European growth, is now the laggard dragging it down. It really is extraordinary, folks, that what you have thought about and assumed is now over. And it takes courage, but also a sense of realism to say now we are going to about our situation and try to find a livable way forward. The alternative, well, I don't want to spell it out. You can figure it out for yourself. But I hope you will not hold against me that I have told you how this situation really is, rather than comforting you with more denial. But if I have failed, which I understand I may well have, then I have good news for you. If you want to wallow in denial, just turn on the radio and the television, and this evening it will all go away as you get told that the great issues of our time are those carefully excluding everything I have told you. Thank you very much for your attention. I really...
That was the state of the United States economy. Cecilia, if you, to the right of your screen, you would see an X. If you touch that X, then over to your left, you see a thumbs up. If you hit that thumbs up, and then you just can hit the live link stream below it, and that takes you right back into the chat after you hit the like button. But I couldn't break down such information for you in one go. So this is why I have to bring it to you, because this is the state of the US economy, where it is going. Where the US economy falls, it will affect those who are hinged together with the US economy. We heard over the weekend similarly from Ralston Hyman. It is the state of the Jamaican economy as well. Even though taking inference from what Ralston Hyman was saying, a lot in Nigel and Andrew's case is
of business
deliberate.
people.
No, I think I have been saying about Trump for a time. The newly elected president of Botswana is saying the same thing as well. And I think leaders across Africa and the Caribbean should take the initiative in this next 4 year to move away from a failing US economy and let us have some debate about some BRICS relation. I do think Jamaica need to start having this debate. Jamaica already has a relationship with China. We see memorandums of understanding signed with India the other day. If our government is having a BRICS relation and a BRICS alignment, should this not be a conversation they have with the people, or is it they're afraid of the US to have that conversation? But let's listen to that snippet, what the newly elected president of Botswana said relation to President Trump, which I think they should take the advantage of.
Within the country.
I want to also thank my beautiful wife, Melania, and First Lady.
Donald Trump, when he was there, one of the critical interventions, if you will, that he made internationally was to scale down the self-declared or proclaimed role of the United States as a police force of the world. And we saw him withdraw troops, American troops, from various places and not participate in generating new wars. And so I hope his return means a continuation along that path.
Well, let's hope so, because the war is getting too much on the planet, and it is what failing empires do. The more them are decline, and the more them seek to drop bomb on innocent women and children.
The two daughters of Colonel Charles, Uno two is on a campaign to mash up the party because we not endorse some jankro who no mean the party no good, and if stop it.
No. I heard James Robertson made a promise to Andrew Holness last night that you're guaranteed 4 seats, 2 in Portland and 2 in St. Thomas. James Robertson said, and I may make up it in James, anybody can go watch the fracas of last night and see I used to so, and I make it up. But remember, James, the people round a dump, round a salt lane, a church corner, James and Michelle. When you now go to the poll, carry these people along with you. When you dip on the stage, a fool way, take these people in our hearts with you. Because remember, Michelle Charles, even though James Robertson tell Andrew last night, say you're guaranteed a seat there, the people are guaranteed no support from you, Michelle Charles. Not one iota of it. Not one iota of it, Miss Charles. But we hear James promised the Prime Minister seat last night. I wonder if any of the 2 daughters of Colonel Charles respond to Damien Crawford's requests, such as Michelle, the constituency MP. Good God Almighty, Michelle, what happened to the host them when they say MP get figure out a year time, term time, or whatever? Colonel Charles Chan's daughter, have you gone there? Have you sent your people there to have these people register on the PATH program? Is there a community health worker, Michelle Charles and Pernette Charles Jr., that visit that community round a dump? Are we aware that children are being poisoned, environmentally poisoned in Jamaica in 2024? And none of our politicians are speaking about that. When them go up on them podium, they tell us about the grandiose piece of road them where you just need to look upon them sideways and them bus. Michelle Charles, come on now. Get off it. I mean, those high horses that you're all calling pan. Darrell Vaz took a swipe at the Prime Minister in Parliament the other day. But little did I know that Darrell Vaz was saying to the Prime Minister, you can't galang around the country and blame we so, and you not fix the old battered road them in your constituency. So when you hear Darrell Vaz attack, Darrell Vaz was talking to the Prime Minister. Look at the roads in the Prime Minister's constituency. These are Andrews Road. The Prime Minister's constituency. So when you hear Darrell Vaz, I take swipe after the Prime Minister in a Parliament, at them something, yeah, Darrell Vaz attack. But if uno see the shit look on Darrell Vaz's face last night, Darrell Vaz was so disappointed. He was so annoyed. His face looked so like sour shit and everything else you could think of. He looked very unhappy. And then and just a whisper and a whine up to every man like she hear what them I say. I don't get it. I really don't get the bravado. But Juliet Cockburn Finn will come with fear patty mouth and come tell the people them. If you don't vote for I start him, I go tell you what to come suck out. When you love take way and drive way up under you and under everywhere else. Look on your constituency. And you come last night. You come last night and you boast about Anjouan Road. You boast about East Portland MP and West Portland MP and Road. Look on your constituency, Juliet Cockburn Finn. Your constituency life look tough just like you. Life in your constituency, Juliet Cockburn Finn, look tough just like you. And you go all the way to Portland. I criticize Mark Golden constituency. I'm not defending Mark Golden here. But when you look, every MP in Jamaica have horrible constituency. But have you seen the amount of landslide, fall down rock, stone, bust up and pop up road in a Juliet Cockburn Finn constituency? Juliet Cockburn Finn have no right to criticize anybody about roads in their constituency, madam. Every MP across Jamaica, you never see Floyd Green kill one whole man where they enough for him whole. You never see that? Minister Green analyzed a whole man. You just need to jump off a bicycle. So, uno criticizing PNP about bad road, it don't work. This is why we have to talk to us about relevant things. And this is why Donald Trump make up relevant things, even if he don't mean it and it's not workable. And talk to the people them and the people them listen to him. But when you not come to it, come talk up the whole heap of irrelevant thing where we know Senagoso. Uno know Senagoso. Uno know so no do it. But all that uno do is expect if you continue believe say it's going to happen. A rude awakening is coming to Andrew Holness regime. Quite a rude awakening, because you see the denial that Professor Wolf spoke about with the Americans and where the Americans are at economically, socially, and everything, it is the same thing with the Jamaica Labour Party. They are in such a denial. But let's go over to Prime Minister Walk Palm Bridge. Prime Minister Walk Palm Bridge in a 2024 Prime Minister. Let's go to Prime Minister upon the bridge. Or Prime Minister upon the bridge there. Come on, Prime Minister upon the bridge. Where come? Or maybe they're too far. Hold on there. Prime Minister upon the bridge. No, something Prime Minister upon the bridge. Hold on. Go back to Prime Minister upon the bridge. Prime Minister upon the bridge. Yes, Prime Minister upon the bridge. The Prime Minister was confronted by a group of young men in Trelawney asking for work. Let's listen to the fumble double and the fumble of the Prime Minister, then we'll get back on the other side of it.
Development for you, them want place to employ because I'm a self-employed person.
What do you do?
We do farming, man. We plant yam, raise goat, raise bees.
Bees?
Yeah.
Good, yeah, good.
But don't use a lack of...
You do honey?
Yeah, the honey raise, but we don't fully understand everything. But we don't want more resources for you.
Yes, donkey, if you raise bees, I have for honey purpose. We don't raise bees because they're pretty and we look at them and we want them to bite for your damn fool.
Them as you can see. So then there's a lack of infrastructure to say employ.
You know the challenge I'm facing? I'll tell you what the challenge I'm facing. So just a couple of days ago, I got a call from a businessman saying, I can't find people to work. Serious business, you know. So yes, can't find people.
Should I respond to him here or make it play out first? Then me respond to him. May I make it go and play or not tell me in the comment? Because he said this morning, Prime Minister.
Saying, listen, we have to do something about it because, you know, his factory is slowing down. Can't get his output up because he hires people today and 3-4 weeks, they're gone. So no, but hold on. So when I come here now, and they said to me, well, the youth, them unemployed. Well, you are technically not unemployed. You are a farmer. But there may be other youngsters who are not working. And so the challenge we have at the first level of it is not so much that we don't have jobs. We have what is called a frictional problem, how to get you to where the jobs are. And a part of that, surprisingly, is to get the bridge fixed so that your transportation is easier. But that's just a very technical answer to it. I mean, generally, I agree with the point you're trying to make, which is that in rural areas, greater attention needs to be paid to ensure that our young people, particularly our young men, can be gainfully employed.
So again, young men, so that we can say, I put confidence in you say, don't you say a place where probably born a donkey and cat, yam and banana. Right. Yellow yam gone up. So the economic lift, Jamaica, where you say a farming, majority, a government sector divert. We young people, we believe in our farming, but the thing is that now we not get as much support directly. Down here, so lack of whole thing directly. Saying the idea, you down here, people there start talking about your freedom of expression. So I talk to you from a perspective where you observe. So you are a prime minister, you are a big man, and you think you say go. So the future in a year and as a young youth, directly. And you know, say young youth are the future. And see me shake your hand. Probably all of them can't shake your hand, but me shake your hand.
Well, look, listen. That you have put your confidence and trust in me, it means a lot to me. And I am very humbled by it, and I make a commitment not to let you down. I think that since I've been Prime Minister from 2016 onwards, if I were to have toured any community in Jamaica, probably about 13% of the community would be unemployed, of the people who could work. And maybe 23% of the youth in particular would be unemployed. Today is quite a different story. Today, it's 4% of the labor force unemployed, and youth unemployment is down almost to single digits now. So a great transformation has happened. Your problem here is not youth unemployment. Your problem, as you have described it in your second explanation, is that the rural communities generally need greater attention.
Yeah, need attention.
And the attention is in their infrastructure, like the bridge and the roads, social infrastructure as well, playing field and so forth, clinics and so forth, but also in the economic opportunities that exist. I like what you have said, that the youngsters are into farming, but they want assistance with technology in farming. They want assistance with access to seeds and plants and even access to financing. We are putting in place the programs to be able to address it. I can't do everything one time. No. So strategy number one was to get most of the young people into employment. All right? The next strategy now, which we're going to pivot to, is how to get the country to grow. Right? And to get the country to grow, we're going to have to give support to things like what you are saying. That if you are going into honey, you hear what you said to me a while ago, yeah, I'm going to do it honey, but I don't really understand everything about it. So how do we get you now to be a true honey farmer up with your apron and support you with bees and support you with little financing and help you to get the market? Those kinds of support is what will make the economy grow. The HEART program is here. We have a special program for young people who don't have the qualifications and who live far from the training centers that we can get them in. Your member of parliament would be aware of it. I think it's 25. So we're working on it, right? And there are other programs. Clearly, it's not all perfect, but it is the best it has been.
Okay, sir.
Blessings.
Let me calm myself down. Me have to calm myself down first. Is the Prime Minister aware that he has not answered the question the young man asks? Speak nicely, Wayne, speak nicely. The Prime Minister regularly speaks about the employment rate and how much job they adapt. Yeah, so just pick up a job. If you not work in a Jamaica today, as a young people, and you don't want work, help us to understand, though, Prime Minister. When the job them, that one factory at town, Prime Minister, town. And Trelawney Prime Minister is not developed in a way where young people can go look a job at factory or whatever. You're saying, Prime Minister, that once I fix the bridge, you can go take a job at wo yonder, pan the bad road them, pan the high bus fare. But the Prime Minister have no thought to say, you know, a national rail service would really help to move people across the country much more. So the youths in the deprived rural area, dumb Prime Minister, can take a job at wo yonder because them can travel on train at a cheaper work, get to Kingston on time for work, finish work, and get back to Chilani on time. Colin Bell and Ralston Hyman said that 11 billion, Prime Minister, that you're using to buy vote. How wise would it be to invest that 11 billion in those young youths in Chilani who are looking for lands and agricultural apparatus? To Prime Minister, I want to cuss you, sir, but I'm trying to keep it decently. Because you cannot listen to this man and don't cuss. 11.4 billion. 11.4 billion wasted on buying vote, Prime Minister. Something that cannot even go to the supermarket to buy a week's worth of grocery. But if you have invested, as Colin Bell and Ralston Hyman said, in agriculture, you know the productivity that would drive. I wonder what would favor view be about that. When you realize the doom and gloom, when you realize the doom and gloom, and there's nothing put in place by our government to cushion the blow of the high food price coming, to pump more investment into our agriculture. Make sure that when this armada comes, we can feed ourselves. What this government is saying, it's okay for you to eat the Chinese plastic rice and the cornmeal where Chinese just make up them yellow dye, dry it and grind it, and them give you cornmeal, or them make up lettuce, give them make egg. Yes, but we must not farm. Do you understand the disaster to come? When this Prime Minister is talking about jobs, young people across the country don't have access to these jobs. Because a youth from my community in St. Elizabeth, where Black River do and on jobs, and nobody apply for in my lifetime. You think the young youths in my community can go take a job at Kingston? The furthest they can take a job is Negril or Santa Cruz. Because it wouldn't be wage sensible, Prime Minister. Economically, it wouldn't be sensible. Because the amount they would have to pay for bus fare, for travel and lunch, Prime Minister, it wouldn't worth the 15,000 a week. The 15,000 a week done in a bus fare and lunch by Friday come. That's not economically sensible. Because there's no local jobs, no local development for any of these young youth. So when we hear the Prime Minister walk and talk about this, you talk about the percentage of youths in Kingston and Montego Bay and Ochi we have access to job, Prime Minister. You not talk about the youth them across the country where don't have no access to job. These youths are not in that figure, you know. Don't try fool with. We don't all that fool for things that you talk about them in that figure. when we know to say, talk truth if we don't know, we know to say, you only talk about the youth, them in a like Portmore, Kingston, Montego Bay, Ochi and Negril. Them youth that were living at them cluster, they will have access to jobs within those places. We might have the few menial jobs to offer Prime Minister. But when you not talk about the country, when you make it look like jobs that are Southwest St. Elizabeth, but you not talk about the country, when I make it look like job that Trelawney. It's not everybody can get to built up cities. We cannot afford to get there. Built up cities where they want to so-called jobs them in, we cannot afford to get there. So when you not talk about employment and not bring the jobs to we, I don't know what you're all talking about. Why don't you all try bring the jobs to us? And then you put the job out of our way and I tell we say because we don't have no ambition why we don't go to go search and walk far to find it. And then you not talk about economic development for which part of Jamaica, because not Rona, Church Corner, Salt Lane. Jamaica people, we need to focus on where we're going. The world is changing very fast around us. The economic structure that we hold on to and latch on to is failing. It's dead. The rivalry of China has caught up with the US. There's other options out there. I don't think we have to go down or ought to go down into collapse with the United States. The next election coming, these are the questions that Jamaicans should be asking their politicians campaigning across the country. It is a question we need to start asking Mark Golden and the People's National Party as we assume they will form the next government. What is Jamaica's economic direction? Do we latch to the United States, or do we seek a BRIC relationship, or do we have multilateral relationship economic-wise? But we can't go on like the US is the be-all and end-all. Hannah revoked the rights of the New Zealand British invaders. Even though they might not take it serious, it's a great symbolism. It's time for us to revoke the colonial parliaments that Britain have set up around this world.
The House is suspended until the ringing.
The blooded-faced British man that went around the world killing and stealing in the wake of his travel. It is time for a new direction. I want to thank you all very much for being here with us this morning. Backside, me gone over 2 hours. Over 2 hours. But it was important to bring that particular information to you from Richard Wolff so you understand that if the American economy is in this state, the Jamaica economy is only poised to get worse. And Jamaica people, buttress on yourself. What is to come will be disastrous. What on prefer to do? Riot in the street over food or on a rather farm in our backyard? Do you remember in the late 70s to 1980 when US imposed that food embargo on us? On remember say tissue we never used to use. If we forget flour, we have to buy tissue. Or if we forget soap, we have to buy something else what we don't need with it. Jamaica people, this is your golden opportunity. This is your golden opportunity to prepare yourself for what's to come. Don't wait until hell hit us before we start run and riot in the street over food. We have the soil to make the preparation. What are you waiting for? Thank you all very much for being here this morning on the Global Television Group. Your support, as always, is highly appreciated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And make sure to continue to hit the like button if you have not yet. Subscribe to Global Television if you have not yet, because my statistics tells me that a great percentage of you that watches Global Television do not subscribe. Me know some of them maybe from certain platform one don't like me or whatever, but I saw it go. Information is information, and that we there for. If we there for all up on a heartache on a heart pain, so be it. But thank you all very much for being here. Good morning and good afternoon from the Global Television Group.
The gallery is to be cleared. The House is suspended until the ringing of the bells.
I truly believe our political system needs some fixing. Too much you hear about corrupt politicians and nothing happen. Too much you hear about politicians who take away poor people money and none of them reach in jail. And to the young people at home or wherever you are, and to all Jamaicans, I have one question for you. Take a look at your communities. Take a look at the sliding dollar. Take a look at the failing healthcare and ask yourselves, where is the progress? Where is the progress that this arrogant and disrespectful government keeps talking about? With this existing callous government, matters have gone from bad to worse.